Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this morning for our year-long journey promoting language and literacy across the age levels. Today, we're going to spend time discussing family connections. And so we're going to take a pause and we're going to introduce ourselves because I'm sure you want to know who are we. So I'm going to pass it over to Jessica and she'll introduce herself.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Michelle. I am a Birth to Five facilitator with the Rollins team. I've been in education for more than 23 years. Really excited to meet with you guys today and talk about how, as family care providers, we can leverage that connection with families. So, welcome and thank you for sharing your Saturday morning with us.
Deanna.
Thank you, Alice. Hello, everyone. I am Diana. I am from Bogota, Colombia. I work as a teacher for about 16, 17 years, and this is my 6th year working as a bilingual facilitator, supporting teachers, families, and kids. And I love to read. I have 2 beautiful girls, and I'm so excited to be here today. Thank you for being with us, and it's going to be worth it.
And I am Alice, Alice Oliver, and I am excited too, Deanna, just to be here with everyone today, and to share and learn and grow today, together today. I love a good quote, and so one of the quotes that I am lifting up today is, "In learning you will teach, and in teaching you will learn." That's by Phil Collins, and so in this learning and in this teaching early childhood space, I have been a fierce advocate of early childhood education. I just capped myself at 18 years because I don't want to go. I don't want to keep adding on the years. But I'm a lifelong learner. I find joy in learning from everyone in all things. And most importantly, I'm a mother. Which led me into the field of early childhood education. And again, I'm excited to learn and grow with each of you this morning. So how about we do that? We get right into it, right? Our session objectives this morning is to ensure that in this hour that you spend with us, that you understand the importance of language and the connection to language and literacy in the early years, how it really is the foundation for everything great that's going to become of the young children in your care. And then participants will utilize resources to make connections to families in order to strengthen family connections and language at home. We center this training around our essential elements. There are 9 of them. And today we are focusing on strong partnerships with families. We know that a child's ecosystem is made up of many people, and the most important people are the child's family, their parents, and the other extensions to their family. And so we're going to spend time looking at essential element 9 of our ecosystem, which is strong partnerships with families. Please take a listen to this video, and then I will recap it in just a moment.
What if I was to tell you that a game of peekaboo could change the world? Sounds impossible, right? Well, I'm here today to prove it's not. Hi, I'm Molly, and I'm 7, and this is my little friend Ari. Say hi, Ari. Hi. Oh, and this is my neighbor, Amajot. He has to take Ari away now to get ready for our experiment. But don't worry, they'll be back. My talk today is about some powerful things you grown-ups can do that shape us as children and the adults we become. How do I know? Because my parents and people around me did them, early and often. I know not all kids are as lucky. Some of my friends, some kids at my school, and many around the world. And I would really like to help change that. Thanks to scientists, we now know just how important the first 5 years are for our health and development, especially our brains. Ari started learning long before he was even born, from inside his mummy's tummy. When Ari was born, he was tiny, and he cried all the time. He was always hungry, and he pooped a lot. Now, he laughs and giggles and makes funny noises. But those are just the changes we hear and see. There's way more going on inside. So, let's talk more about our brains. The blue bag is the rough size and weight of a healthy baby's brain at birth. The red one is a baby's brain after the first year. It almost doubles in volume. And by my age, it's almost 90% the volume of an adult brain. Our brains develop faster in our early years than at any other time in our lives. It can create up to 1 million neural connections every second. But we need your help. Our healthy development depends on these top 5 things. 1. Connecting. 2. Talking. 3. Playing. 4. A healthy home. 5. Community. All of this helps our brains and does reach our full potential. So what's something you can do that can
Out of Molly's mouth, out of the mouth of babes, we know that starting in infancy, language and literacy skills develop over time as children build their vocabulary, their sentence length, and then their sentence complexity. Children learn how to express their ideas and words by building their vocabulary, their understanding of grammar, and their ability to use longer, more complex sentences. Language-rich interactions between parents and children not only strengthen the parent-child relationship, but it also stimulates children's cognitive and linguistic development. So having books at home and reading and talking to children, even very young infants, introduces children to developmental skills for language and literacy development. Children whose parents talk to them frequently and use a variety of words when speaking to them when they're very young, for example, have longer vocabularies or larger vocabularies than when they are older in comparison to their peers and their whose parents have spoken to them throughout their early years and into their primary and secondary years. And so we know that it's important, as Molly said, she highlighted, and community. And that's where we come in. And that's our first connection or first attempt to make a strong partnership with families. And so we're going to just talk more about that. How do we do that? And what does it look like? Why does it matter? And so given the participants, the why is essential. You need to know, what is this about? And so because we know that children build skills quickly in the first 5 years of life, as Molly said in her description of Amajad and all the things that he was doing in those first years and even inside of his mother's womb will be continued now that he's outside of that womb, right? And the brain grows fast. Molly gave us an example with the blue bag and the green bag. And so their brains are doubling in size so quickly between babies, toddlers, and preschoolers. Language is flourishing in them, and their cognitive skills are increasing in every interaction that we have with young children. Young children gain their social and emotional skills, and that helps them interact with people. And because parents are the child's first teacher, they fosters the child's learning and brain development. And so when we partner with families and we form those strong partnerships, young children benefit significantly in their gains in language, vocabulary, concept development, early literacy, and all of the learning that happens in the first 5 years of life that we then see carried out through primary and their secondary years in school. And so therefore, we focus our time together today on the importance of building and maintaining strong partnerships with families by first exploring the ways in which we support the work that you all do as home care providers, and making those connections with families through activities and other resources. And so let's find out more. And before we do so, I want to take a moment to just learn so far what's resonating with you as you hear, you learn, or think through. Gosh, children learn so much in the first 5 years of life, and it requires us to interact and engage with them early and often. And as community members, we are stakeholders in their future. So take a moment and tell me what's resonating with you thus far. And you can use the chat. And we also have a Jamboard link that was just dropped in the chat. So we're going to bring that up and we're going to see all the things that's resonating with you so far. And if you're not familiar with this, I'll tell you that on the left of the Jamboard screen, you'll see what looks like a little box. That's going to be your little, I call it a sticky note. And if you hover over it, it'll say sticky note. If you click on that, then you're able to start writing in that middle box. And then once you're done, it'll come up. Just hit save and it'll show on the Jamboard. Yes, yes, Brenda. Molly is very smart. How quickly a baby's brain grows. Yes, I love how she just gave us that visual with the two bags, the blue bag and the green bag, and just seeing that. And I wonder about the weight of it. Let's see. Yes, I agree. It is a huge opportunity. Yeah, and it does feel like a big responsibility. It is, and we know that it's rewarding when we're able to see the children's growth over time. So if they're coming into your homes at 8 weeks old when they're just fresh, and if they don't leave until they're 3 or 4 when they're entering preschool or pre-K, you're able to support the families. I agree. And it's making the most of those first 5 years. Yes. Yeah, equally right. And for you as a mom to do the same. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And I agree with this one too. I love the example of peekaboo. And when I first heard this TED Talk, I have never thought of peekaboo in the same way. Like, I'm like, this game is essential. It's important for us to play peekaboo, and it's natural. And we're just talking to babies, and they're waiting for us to uncover our eyes. And as we continue to play the game as they age, when they start making cooing noises, they respond with us through their coos. So yes, I love it, and it is very effective. It's a great way to just have fun with babies, to talk to babies, and to know that you're impacting their language and their brain growth. Absolutely. And I'll just read this last one. The importance of the first 5 years. Yeah, so that quote that we often hear, everything I learned in kindergarten, is so true. And I apply that to all the things before kindergarten and up. So those first 5 years, I agree. Thank you all so much for sharing. What's
Excuse
resonating
me.
with you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. I had to run to the door.
Okay.
So when I came back, I couldn't find my sticky note, but can I just add something to this?
You certainly can. This is an interactive session. So yes, please jump in, Ms. Brenda.
Great. Okay, thank you. family connections is very important. Well, I use it as a singular verb, but yeah, the connections are very important. I have a child who just turned 3. He can name all the planets. Another 3-year-old is reading sight words. And I mean, there's so much they can do because their parents work with them all of the time. And they let them watch positive shows, educational shows. And so it's just with that connection between the families,
Yeah.
that among the family,
Yeah.
that is the reason behind this. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Miss Brenda. You're right. It's important. You're tag teaming with this thing. It's like, what are you doing at home? This is what we're doing in the family care program or home, and you're working constantly with the family for the benefit of the child. Thank you for sharing that so much. I'm going to turn it over to Deanna, and she is going to carry on this great work this morning.
Thank you, Alice, and thank you, everyone, for your input. So now we're going to talk about, I'm connected to Molly and Miss Brenda about those connections and what is happening in the baby's brain when those connections are happening and when are not happening. So let's watch. This is an experiment that is called a still face. This experiment was developed by Dr. Ed Tronick, and it was in the 70s. So we're going to watch, and after watching it, I want to hear from you. So just let's watch it for now.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby, who's about a year of age.
I'm like a girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this, and then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, come on, why aren't we doing this? Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it, they actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay.
Babies this young.
So now after watching this video, I want to hear from you, and you can type in the chat. What are your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions after watching this video? So use the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and share with us, you're free to do it. And let me see. What are you thinking after watching this still face experiment? Any experience that you have had before, something that you know, something that you can relate to? It's kind of hard to watch this video, yes, because we can see the difference between the two moments, when the baby is feeling so connected to the mom, but also when the baby can feel that disconnection I feel sad that she was getting frustrated that the mom wasn't responding to the baby. Yes, that this connection is happening. And the baby was 1 year old. So she was able to notice that something changed. Anybody else? Okay, so with this video, okay, I see the last one. The baby sure went through all of its resources quickly to try to fix it. Yes, she was using, she was pointing, she was crying, she was smiling, trying to get the attention's mom. And she noticed that something was happening, something was different. So with this experiment, we can see our need of connection for very early years. I see Valeria. This video always reminds me of the interactions we see during drop-off and pick-up. I think that is so important. When a parent is constantly on the phone instead of engaging with their child. That is true, Valeria. Thank you for bringing that out. I'm going to be talking about that too. Yes, we can see that disconnection. So I was saying that, with this experiment, we can see how connections are so important from early years. And also it's showing how the parents' reaction can affect the emotional development of a child, right? But I want you to transfer also that to all the areas in a baby, in a child, how that is going to impact their development. Susana Borrego say, how important is that positive attach between a mom and babies for the future and healthy social emotional. Yes, all this what you're saying is so true. So with this, we can see how connections are so important. And I want you to see what is happening in a place like that, in a situation like that, around language development. When a baby doesn't have the exposure of language they need, right? It's going to be the same. Also want you to think about what can happen to a child that is going through that for a long period of time, that there is no connections, any type of connections. So, and when we talk about this, we need to think about families and how we can support them, because, there are many reasons that a parent might struggle having those connections, being present. And it can be for different reasons, injuries, illnesses, domestic violence, depression, and the one that I think Valeria was saying, the phone, right? The phone can take us away from a family. And I can tell, because I am a mom, I have 2 kids. And being a parent now on is so difficult, because you have to be taking care of everything. And as a mom, I take care of what they're eating, what they're listening, what they're watching, all the things that we need to be taking care of. And it's too much. It's a challenge. And many times I realize I don't have the tools or the strategies to do my best or have the best practices at home, right? So it's the same with the families we have. And sometimes they don't know, and they don't do the things because they don't have the knowledge. They don't have the information. There is a lack of information. So that's why it's so important, our role, not only as a family care provider, but also in a society, in a community, because we can support those families. So what we're going to do now is we want to share with you a resource that we have created. That is called Center Families. And these resources, basically, we're using them in a partnership that we have in Marietta City with different sites. And we create those documents or those resources to support families, because we want a child to be exposed to a good language at home, but also at school. So we want families to know what is happening in the school and how they can support them. So if we can go to that document. Yes, and I can show you a little bit more about those.
I think too, Diana, that we would love to hear a little bit about what they're doing at home as well, as
Thank you, Jessica.
what we have,
Yes.
and so that we can build on that.
Thank you, Jessica. Yes, I was waiting for this. So now what we're going to do is you can tell us what are you doing as a family care provider to support these families? You know, what practices, what activities you do to involve families? And we're going to use our Jamboard too, so you can let us know. Also, you can type in the chat. And let's see the responses. The link is already there, so you can type in your responses about what practices do you have? What activities do you do to support families? Okay, let me see. So sending home books that have read during the day so families can read them with their children. This is an amazing strategy because, you know, we are including families. We're letting them know what is happening at school and they can support that at home. What else? I see Brenda. I record our craft time to show parents it is not the result, but the process is the process and it's easy. Yes. So it's not only, I mean, showing them how their kids are doing is something that parents can, you know, easily say, okay, yes. And we can do that at home too. Anyone else? What other practices, activities, ideas you have done to involve families, to include them, to let them know? And also when we're thinking about families, we need to think about, you know, languages, cultures, where they're coming from and how we can support them, you know, letting them know that their culture and the languages are important. Send home a daily folder. So, okay, I'm imagining with different activities that parents can do at home, hands-on, to show what we are, that show that we are a help to parents and children. Yes, you know, sending them ideas how we can support families too. And because I think the connection that you have as a family care provider with families are closer and then stronger, you know, because in a regular setting, as a mom, you can just drop off your child and maybe you're going to say hello to the floater, to the director, but not to the teacher. Different than in a family care setting because you are going to connect directly with the family. You know, and most of these families are coming from the community. So, you know, neighbors, family members. So those relationships are going to be stronger and that's going to facilitate everything. I communicate with my parents daily on their child progress. That's amazing because, you know, as a parent, I want to know how my child is doing and how I can support. You are going to find, you know, parents are really, really involved, but also parents that maybe they don't know what to ask. They don't know what they can expect about their child development. I have age appropriate activities, backpacks, and books that are sent home for family connections. That's great. You're covering everything. Good, Brenda. So newsletters, adding what we're doing and tips and resources. Okay, I see here, I need to move. I sent a note home at the end of the day so parents know what their child did during the day. Yes, that's always good to let parents know. I do a newsletter and often will text photos. Sorry, I need to move these. Photos of their children to parents throughout the day. Yes, I think, you know, as a parent, I will love what my kids are doing. And those are the things that, you know, as a parent, because kids are spending at least 8 hours at school, right? So 8 hours that we don't know as a parent what's happening. And daily reports are essential, in my opinion. I think so. You know, those little details that parents can know and those ideas, those tips that parents can use at home are so important. Susanna, I don't see, hold on. I launch early literacy program to, I cannot see this one. It's going so fast. I'm sorry. Early literacy program to parents in our program with activities and ideas. Okay, to promote engagement through playing. One of the things that I realized, supporting families and coaching family care providers is like you will see, these two different realities. Parents are so involved, but also parents that might be not that involved. But I realize it's because they don't want it. It's because the truth is because they don't know how important is, to be part of this process. And we have different realities when we're talking about families. We have families that they have 2 jobs, they have many things going on. So I think it is important for us, as I mentioned before, to build these strong relationships because we can support families in a meaningful ways. Okay, and the last one, modeling interactive reading. I think this is a huge one. Story time is an important piece a day in our classrooms, but also when parents know how to read a book to their kids, that's a huge win. Yes. Sí, mi amor. Sí, I'm sorry, I have my kids here. So, okay, we can move to the resources that we wanted to share with you. And I want to, explain you more a little bit. So this Center Families basically is going to bring language and cultures for families, because we know in our cities we can have diversity. And when a family feels welcome and they feel that their language and their culture is honored, many wonderful things are going to happen. So it's good that you as a family care provider know where are coming them from, what languages do they speak, because based on that you can plan many activities. And these activities, what we do is to share with families what is happening in the school and how you can support your kids at home around language development. And these activities they don't require these fancy things or expensive things. Those activities parents can do it at home, using things that they're going to find easily. Also, we provide some tips about when they can have conversations with their kids. But Diana, I have a baby, they have babies. Yes, conversations with babies also are important. So we provide some ideas of how parents can have a conversation while they're cooking or they're driving home with their 5 months baby. So these resources are really helpful and they will connect families because families are a huge piece during this process. So I think,
thanks, Deanna. Yes. And can we go back to that slide again, tech team? Thank you. We have a wonderful tech team today, Sam and Trina running our slides and dropping things in the chat for us. So thank you all. But for this resource for family connections, you have the link in the chat and it'll take you to a Google folder that has a lot of different resources. And this particular list for family connections is tied to a theme or an inquiry question. So this particular list is tied into the idea or the inquiry question of, how does the world work? How are all living things connected? How are they connected to each other? How are living things connected to the earth? And how and why do living things change? And so we're looking, this may be if you're doing themes, a preliminary spring, like what happens when, caterpillars change to butterflies or flowers are growing. So it can look like that. And so I love this resource because it goes a little bit by age level. So you can see here we have the blue and the red and kind of the goldish color. And so the blue ideas are for some of our younger kids. So, they can share our stories and know each other better, connecting things. And so we kind of move on up. So some of the ideas you'll see in this document are for your littlest children. Ask the families which animals they're interested in and simply pull those animals into your classroom, with posters or pictures or books, so that you're honoring what the child loves at home and what the family's talked about. It can go all the way to take a walk in your neighborhood with your toddler, your 2 or 3-year-old, and notice that the trees are changing together, and talk about that, about how trees change with the seasons. And so you're giving the families, like Deanna was saying, often families don't know what to talk about. They don't know how to engage in these conversations. And so when we go back to those videos we watched, to the importance of peekaboo that Molly was telling us about, to the still face video, and knowing how much even our youngest children crave connection and language and shared experiences, how can we offer families the way to make those connections and share that language with their children that builds on what we're doing in the classroom? So I love all of the ideas you guys put in the chat. We're going to share out today, towards the end of this hour we have on this Saturday, some very specific ways that you can tie in whatever you're doing in your home, and allow the families to connect with that in a meaningful way with their children. We've said it on and off throughout the day today. You all have the power and the privilege of great connections with your families. They see you when they drop the children off. They see you when they pick up a sick child. They see you at the end of the day. So you have the opportunity to build a strong relationship with the families, so that the families can build these really strong early language connections with their children. So we have this resource that we wanted to share with you in the Google Doc. And then we can go to the next slide. We have some resources on Cox Campus that you can pull up if you're using a book that we might happen to have on Cox Campus, or you can create this yourself. If you joined us in October for our first Saturday session with family care providers, we talked a lot about a bubble map. It's a very easy planning technique and device to use. You just put the name of your book right there in the center. You add some vocabulary that you might want to incorporate into that upper left box. And then you simply write some activities that you might want to do, maybe morning meeting, outside activities, maybe something for some early math or early literacy for your 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. Maybe just some changes to the environment for your babies. Maybe you're putting up pictures of those animals that they love at their eye level. So we've dropped a blank bubble map if you'd like to use it for any planning or to share with your families. Some of our home providers even make this a little bit bigger and put it on the wall in their homes, so that families can see what they're working on and what their focus book is when they come in and go with their children. But we have 3 examples today of different bubble maps that have been created for different age levels. So the next slide shows a bubble map for toddlers. It's for older toddlers, and the books are Plant a Kiss and Be Kind. So we're talking about loving and kindness. And so for our toddlers, one way that we could create a family connection would be to create a family book with the children. And so families could send in pictures of people who love their child. So, grandparents, aunts, uncles, siblings, parents. And then you could say to your children, if you just, glue them on some construction paper, or you might need to put them in a photo album, depending on if the families need the pictures back. But say, we've gathered pictures of many people who love you in this book. And so invite the children to say, I kiss mommy, or I kiss, Uncle Juan. And so then we are, introducing this idea that family and school can come together, right? So we have pictures of our family at school, and our family is talking about and knowing that we're making connections at school and they're contributing. So that partnership with families and with home and the home provider is so important here. And if you happen to be using a book, these bubble maps exist on Cox Campus. So if you want to put in the search bar, whatever book you're using, the search bar on Cox Campus, you might pull up a bubble map that you can use some of these ideas. And so the next bubble map would be more for your preschoolers. And the book Maple is about a little maple tree that's planted with a little girl, and how they both grow together is her maple tree. And so this family connection example, and we tried to pull a few different examples to give you ideas of how this could look. So we're going to ask the families to send in a picture of the child when they were very young. So again, this is for your 3, 4, 5-year-olds. And then you, as the home provider, can take pictures or have the family send in a current picture of the child. And so then you have a then and now wall of your children. You have a picture of them when they're a young baby, and you have a picture of them now. And you can notice here that we're asking the families to share something that was magical about their child when they were tiny, and something that's magical about them now. And the term magical is going to come from our book. We've used that as we've read the book and in the classroom. So the families are celebrating their child and talking about the things that are so magical and wondrous about their child, and sharing that at school, so that you can have those conversations at school around those pictures, and talking about how they've grown, talking about what is surprising to them. And then the families know what's happening in your home while they're not there, and can continue those conversations. So again, just working together to connect the family to what's happening in the daytime at your school, and then allowing the family to use that vocabulary. And so our final example is going to be a book called Brick by Brick, and it's building and construction. And I pulled this, again, for 3, 4, 5-year-olds, because I love the connection of asking the family members, if anybody in your family works in construction. Maybe it's not you, maybe it's, your great uncle, or maybe it's your cousin's sister's husband, somebody that the children know who works in construction. And if they would be willing to come to the class and talk about why they're proud to work in construction. So I love this merging of school and home, of family, and in your life in the family childcare school as a provider. And so as an alternative, if nobody in any families, you may only have 5 or 6 children in your home, and maybe nobody's in construction, then have the parents draw a picture with their child of what they do for a living, for a profession, and write why they're proud to do that. Because again, we're pulling that vocabulary proud, and we're talking about why we are proud to do the things that we do as a profession. And so it opens those conversations with your children at home to talk about, mommy's a nurse, and I'm proud to be able to help people who are sick, or, any conversations like that, and to kind of bridge that gap and allow for those conversations and the growth at home. So we wanted to share these examples with you as just a touch point of the many different ways that you can make connections with families. And so I see in the chat, Sam has dropped a link to find completed bubble maps if you're interested in looking at those. But today, as we're sort of wrapping up our hour, we're keeping an eye on the time. We know it's a Saturday morning, but now it's your turn. We want you not only to leave with information, but with a little bit of time to practice. So we're going to give you about 3 minutes to think of a book that you're going to use in the upcoming weeks. It doesn't have to be something you're using on Monday. Maybe you always read, Baby Loves Spring in March, and so that you're going to use that with your children. Whatever you're thinking of for the next few weeks. And think through maybe a little bit of the vocabulary or the big ideas you want to present to your students. And what's one way that you could plan for a family connection with that book? It could be a family sends something in. It could be that you give an idea for the family to have a conversation, and they could illustrate it and bring it back. family visitors. So we're going to give you a little bit of time, and I want you to, as you think through that, either drop it in the chat or come off mute and share your ideas. There are many of us, about 30 of us in the room, and we're going to leave today with a lot of great ideas for family connections. So we'll go ahead and this timer is started, and I'll keep an eye on the chat. Okay, I see some ideas coming in. We'll go over them once everybody's had a time to think. Don't worry about how sophisticated or complex it is. It could be so simple as sending home something to talk, just a prompt for your evening meal. Have the Saturday book. It's a book about what a little girl and her mom do on a Saturday. And they'll have parents make a simple book of what they do during the weekends with their kids. And so that way the children can share what happens in the weekends at school. What a great connection. All right, and Chelsea's put in Fill a Bucket by Carol McLeod and Catherine Martin. Parents could come in the next day or after the weekend and let me know how their child has filled a bucket, like how they've showed kindness or helpfulness. What a great idea to connect school and home. Right? For community helpers, about how people make a difference in the world. Parents can talk with their kids by celebrating the ways they help. And they can text pictures to the home provider. And then they'll celebrate in class. You know, your mommy sent me this picture of you helping put the dishes on the counter and bringing a diaper for your brother. It's great. Oh, Brenda, I love this because you're right. There's the whole Read Across America and Dr. Seuss is coming up. So one fish, two fish. So some of the vocabulary would be counting, fish faces, the colors red and blue, and have families send pictures from home with a child coloring blue and red. Absolutely, just simple ideas to take what's going on at school to home. And then parents know, hey, we're reading, we're doing things around Dr. Seuss, and we're going to color with red and blue crayons because you're doing one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. And so just giving the parents an opportunity to connect with their children over shared language. I love that. Oh, I love that book. I Love You, Stinky Face. That's a great one, Valeria. And if chat is difficult or if you're on a mobile device, feel free to come off of mute. We've got a little bit of time to share with each other this morning.
Yeah, I was having just a little bit of a difficulty getting it all typed in, but I wanted to use I Love You Stinky Face, which is a board. I've seen it in the board book. I actually found a copy of it for $3 at Home Goods last weekend. And so but in the book, just having the children not only to getting the families together to write a book using the child's nickname, but however, focusing within the book on the real names of people in the family that may have nicknames so that they know their actual names. So it's just like a one way, because a lot of times we deal with families who the children only know the family members by nicknames instead of their actual real names. And so that's what I was thinking is centered around center it more around the children understanding, getting understanding of the real names of family members.
I love that. And I love the family involvement, getting them to make that book and the child's nickname at home, right? Because sometimes we have special nicknames for our kids at home that, that's just what they hear at home, but to be able to share that and how safe that child will feel in their school setting, right? Knowing that their special name is shared, but also the conversations to have with the family around who's in your family and who loves you, Maybe we call them Dee Dee, but it's really your aunt. Her name's Denise. And so we just go from there.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, perfect. The Very Hungry Caterpillar, Caterpillar Hungry Food Day and Days of the Week. Family members should draw pictures of food that they eat that's similar to the caterpillar in the story. Absolutely. What great conversations would happen at home, right? Like, do you eat salami? No, but you do eat ice cream, Do you eat 5 oranges? Maybe not, but going from there. Bear Snore On is a great book. Snore, Stoke the Fire, Flutter, Hibernate, Cave, right? Families can find and share pictures of the animals. Perfect. There's a book called Ama and How I Got My Name. Oh, that's great. And then those conversations at home, like, why did you name me this? And how did I get my name? And being able to share that. These are wonderful ideas. We will keep all of these in mind. So thank you, and continue to come with these great ideas for how you can connect families and encourage them to have those conversations at home so that we can build that early language that's and connections that are so important that we've seen today. All right, so we'll hop to the next slide. We would love to know one thing that you can take away from today and implement just in the next week. So a quick 2 minutes, if you want to come off of mute, or if you want to share in the chat something that you've learned today and can implement next week. I am coming away myself with some great ideas for sharing with family childcare at homes with whom I get to work. So I appreciate that. But if anybody wants to drop them in the chat, we'll just take a minute or two to think through that. I think I'll also be thinking about Molly for a while. All right. I'm sorry, I interrupted someone. Who was Jen?
That's me, Brenda Burns.
Hi, Brenda.
If I may, yes, I love the video about Molly with the comparisons of the brains. But I was typing when the last person was speaking about the nicknames. It is just astonishing that the children do not know their family's name. I have one child who did not know her parents' name. What's your mother's name? Mommy. What's daddy's name?
Mm-hmm.
Or she refers to them as babe. They call each other.
Right.
And so I taught her that, and I mean, it already takes her a long time to grasp what I'm teaching with her. So I'm learning that I have to work with her with just one thing at a time until she really has it down solid. And so the other day, her father came to pick her up, and I asked his name, and she said, "It's Daddy." So Dad said, "She haven't called my name in a while." I didn't bother telling this because you don't teach her.
Sure. But what great ways to have those conversations too, to encourage, families to talk about who's who at home, just great ways to encourage that conversation that wouldn't be difficult for families too. So. All right. A few seconds left. Anybody else want to share any takeaways from today?
This is Valeria. I wanted to use it when I've seen the video with Molly before, but I'm definitely going to play it as an introduction to our next parent leadership organization meeting for our parents, so that they can kind of key in, especially with us we're getting to go into spring, and before long we'll be going into the summer, and we want to make sure to encourage our parents not to fall off the wagon when it comes to summer vacation, and they quote unquote say the children need a break. But at the same time, we try to encourage them, number one, to let them stay in school through the summer, because we have a STEAM enrichment camp over the summer. But number two, if they are going to pull them out for the summer, to make sure that they include literacy at least, daily, at least once a day when they're out.
Sure. And those conversations, right? Like, absolutely, you can take a break from structure, but that's not a break from connections and conversations and language building and those things. I see planning for the connections sheet too. That's great.
I would like to ask a question, please. The person that just spoke, you said that's a parent leadership. What is it that you do?
I'm a family support coach with Sheltering Arms, and so
Oh,
we have
okay.
monthly parent meetings like in the regular school and traditional K-12 school settings. They have the PTA, PTO, PTSO, and so on for Sheltering Arms, we have a parent leadership organization, which we work with our parents to get them to a level of parent leadership and advocacy. And that's what we use those meetings for monthly.
That is beautiful. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, Valeria. All right. And so as we finish today, I encourage you just to continue to think through ways that you can encourage conversation and connection in the families that connect back to what you're doing in your centers and in your homes. But we have an exit poll, I think, on the next slide. There's a webinar poll, and we're going to see if we can drop that it should just maybe show up for you guys. There's been a little bit of difficulty with the polls today. Here we go. So if you guys want to take if you wouldn't mind taking a little bit of time to answer this exit poll for us, and then we do appreciate your time today. Thank you for spending your Saturday morning with us and talking about the importance of those connections with families for our children. And have a great rest of your weekend.